Okay, we're rolling. Welcome back to another week of the Hockey Cards Gongshow Podcast. My name is Josh. As always, I'm here with Troy. Hey, Troy, how's it going, bud?
It is going fantastic. Episode 21. Let's do it.
Let's do this. We have some big time announcements.
First time we've had a lot of really big announcements, I guess. We'll let the listeners decide if they're big announcements, but
sure, big to us, right? Yeah, we've been a little lacking on. We've just been kind of getting up off the ground with the show and getting used to the weekly format. But I guess I'll start off the bat with big announcement number one. We have more Gong Show coming everybody's way. What I mean by that is starting the week of October 17th. So is that about 2 weeks from now?
Yeah.
We're moving the Gong Show from one episode a week to 2 episodes a week. Now, Troy, this is where we need a button bar where you could do a huge round of applause because it seems really anticlimactic with all the dead air here.
Well, what if I did the wah, wah, wah?
Nobody cares. No, we're doing this for really, I guess the biggest reason is Troy and I have been talking about, well, how do we best cover the pace of the hockey card market when the season starts? And one of the things that we had discussed quite a bit is, well, if you have a weekly show, ultimately you're going to end up talking about things that happened 6 days ago, which just feels like a really long time and how fast this hobby moves and the market moves. So we wanted to, I guess, spread the show out a little bit is maybe the best way to put it, to help keep more on top of the movers and shakers and all the news that's coming out in the hobby. Right now, our show, as you probably know, comes out on Wednesday of each week. We're going to go from a Monday to a Thursday, or Monday and Thursday format.
Yeah.
There'll be a new show on Monday morning, new show on Thursday morning. That shortens the gap in between shows. Pretty excited about it. We're a little nervous about it too. I've been jokingly tabbing this let's see if we can cause Troy to have a mental breakdown move, because in addition to the Gong Show, of course, he's a hockey coach at Minnetonka High School here in Minnesota. He's also a youth hockey coach for his son. So what do you plan to do with all your free time this winter?
I don't know, man. Well, the one good thing I think will happen is we'll get better information. It will be more relevant. And hopefully, each episode isn't like an hour or 2 hours long. Hopefully we can condense them a little bit. But I think it'll be okay. And I will be the first to let everyone know if I'm having a breakdown because I don't have any time to do anything.
Yeah. So that's big announcement number one. Big announcement number two has to do with what we announced last week in adding a Patreon, channel or account, or I don't know how you put it, to support our podcast. We have had a few people that, as we kind of did a soft rollout of it, that have supported us, and which we're really grateful for that. The idea is to help us grow, that you're just contributing $5 a month, which we think is kind of like a cup of coffee and a blessing for people that do that. And they're really going to help us hopefully produce more and better content for you guys. Obviously, it's not mandatory. It's something that everyone elects to do. What we did not mention last week, though, is that we've been working on behind the scenes a number of benefits that we've now rolled out to people that do elect to support us through Patreon. And the first big one is connecting a Discord server to our show and through our Patreon account. So we should probably try to explain, because I don't think everyone knows what a Discord server is. I guess I think of it as it's like a private community where there's tons of groups that people that use them. And I know in the video game world, they're super popular. But really for us, what it's going to do is it's going to provide a vehicle that will allow us to give our supporters inside access and input into our show. We'll be posting additional data, trends, stuff that you may not get on the Gong Show podcast. There's going to be areas for people to give us input ideas. What segments do you want to see on the show? If we're having upcoming guests, we're going to post those early to the Discord. and get input from our supporters as to what questions they think that we should be asking that guest. Like, as an example, when we have Upper Deck on again in the near future, we'll post in our interviews channel, and we'll say, hey, we're having Upper Deck come on to talk about X product. Let us know what questions we should ask them. What else am I forgetting about?
That's about it. It's a community. It's just additional information, additional insight. We'll be in there all the time, answering stuff or posting stuff there too. So it's another avenue that is a benefit of supporting us on the Patreon.
Yep. And so when you go to Patreon and you do elect to support us, you get an automatic invite to Discord and you can come in. The other kind of Patreon news is we created a limited tier, a special tier called OG Supporter. These are limited to 25 spots. I think there's 22 left. 3 people have jumped on early so far. Basically, what it'll do is you're just saying, hey, I'm here from the beginning. I'm an original supporter. You'll get a role in Patreon that will forever identify you as an OG Gong Show supporter. And then we're going to work really because to show our gratitude for being one of the first to support us, we're going to do lots of special stuff down the road to really acknowledge you guys and hopefully feel like that you're respected from our end and then get some other benefits that maybe other people won't have. So that's our OG supporter role. Last thing on Patreon is what we're going to do is each week we'll shout out new members. So like I said, we did have 3 new OG supporters this week. We're going to we don't want to dox anybody, so we'll just use the Discord name that they give us. And so Blades of Steel, iMate, and the Prospector Collector, thank you guys so much from the bottom of our hearts. And, we're already enjoying the conversations we're having in the Discord. Anything else on that, Trey?
No, it's great. I just want to say thank you also to the people that have jumped in already. It's awesome. And we've had some really good conversations already going on in there.
We do have to mention this. My beautiful, amazing, sweet mother was our first supporter. And she joined Discord, I'm sure not knowing at all what it is. So the first rule of our Discord is please be nice to my mom. Don't make Gwen feel sad in any way. Now is probably a good time to mention that if you are interested in supporting us and joining the Patreon, getting access to the Discord account, the 2 probably easiest ways to do it are, number 1, we posted the link in this episode's description on whatever podcast app you're listening to us on. Another way is you could go to Patreon's website. It's www.patreon.com and just search for our podcast, Hockey Cards Gongshow. Okay, last bit of, announcements before we get rolling is we did upload the second part to Hockey Cards 101 this past Saturday. Had a really great response again. Lots of feedback from people. This one was really fun, Troy, to do because I think the first episode, we kind of had to do all the overview stuff and lay all the foundational stuff. But in part 2, we were able to get more into the weeds and into the nitty gritty of hockey cards. So we covered licensed versus unlicensed cards, all the crazy amounts of various types of card types, from player types to patches to autos, anything you could think of, how to protect your individual cards, organizing, storing, and protecting your collection. So if you're a newer collector or you just want to maybe sharpen your skills a little bit, or you know somebody that's thinking about getting into hockey card collecting, it would be awesome for you to, please share that show with them. We did also create in the Discord a 101 section or category, and we have a lot of channels. So for anyone that is a supporter, they can go in and ask us specific questions around each episode as it pertains to your own collecting journey. And then we've also posted some resources. So a really quick example of that is Troy talked about there's a template that he uses to gauge the thickness of his cards to know what size penny sleeve or top loader he needs. And we put a PDF of that you can print out and place your cards on it. So if you're in a similar situation where you get like a thicker patch card or something like that you're making sure you're putting it in the right size protective sleeve or top loader. Okay, let's you want to roll into the game plan, Trey?
Yeah, that was the longest opening banter section I think we've had We're almost coming up on 10 minutes.
Oh, jeez.
All right. On today's show, we will begin with a deep dive on Juraj Slafkovsky, who was selected as the next player to do a deep dive on in our Instagram poll. We then take a look at some additional breakout candidates for the upcoming 22-23 season. Then it's on to hobby news, followed by Troy and Josh's $5,000 hockey card challenge. We then wrap up the show by looking at NHL preseason notes, new product releases, and our personal pickups and or sales.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit of Juraj Slafkovsky.
I cannot say that first name. I want to say Jurov, but it's Juraj.
Yeah, and I want to say, Jurov too, I think. Okay, so that's something we need to practice. Maybe before we do a deep dive next time, we should practice their name. But like you often say, Troy, it's why we call it the Gong Show.
Yeah, it's the Gong Show. They'll be in my breakout section. There's a couple names I'll probably butcher.
So, as Troy mentioned, we're doing an Instagram story poll each week. We're giving you guys 4 or 5 choices and letting you pick who we really dig into on a weekly basis. Our goal with this is to get to know these rookies a little bit better so that when their rookie cards or young guns comes out, you have a really good understanding of who they are, where they came from, what their skill set is, and what the early opportunity is in the NHL. And hopefully that helps you make more informed investment decisions in these players. So the first one we did was, we did Shane Wright last week, and another Gong Show moment. Who did we do before that?
Boldy.
Matt Boldy. Okay. So Slafkovsky is the third installment of our rookie deep dive. He is a 6'3", 238-pound, 18-year-old left winger for the Montreal Canadiens. He's a big dude, Troy.
He's a very, very big dude.
Really, his rise to prominence was this past winter in the Olympics, where he led Team Slovakia to its first ever Olympic medal. He also led the Olympic tournament in scoring and was named the Olympic hockey MVP. Not a bad run there. It also seemed to give him a big confidence boost when he returned to the Finnish Elite League, Liga, I think it's called.
Yeah.
Where if you look at like a split in his pre-Olympic performance versus post-Olympic performance, there's a big, big upswing in production. Based on that, he was drafted number 1 by the Montreal Canadiens in the 2022 entry draft. He's the highest drafted Slovakian player ever. Do you know who the previous highest Slovakian drafted player was?
Was there another Slovakian taken at number 2?
It was number 3.
No. Slovakia. Oh, Gabrick. It's got to be Wild. Gabrick.
Yep. In 2000, Marian Gabrick from our beloved Minnesota Wild was selected 3rd overall.
Can you edit out that long pause so it sounds like I immediately answered it?
No. I'm keeping it in there, and I'm going to make it more dramatic. I'm going to put the Jeopardy music in there, too. From a scouting perspective, I added a couple of quotes from scouts. So Scott Wheeler from The Athletic says, the expectation with a player like him is that he's going to use his 225-pound frame to play a heavy power forward style game. But Slafkovsky offers uncharacteristic finesse. And then Peter Baracchini from the Hockey Writer says Slafkovsky already has the physical stature that makes him a menacing and tough winger to go up against. He has great strength to barge his way to the center of the ice and powerful release and accuracy. I don't know, any comments on that? Or it's really tough to use.
What's uncharacteristic finesse? Can I get a definition of characteristic finesse and uncharacteristic finesse?
Yeah, there you go. And sometimes, too, it's funny when we add these scouting quotes, sometimes they seem to contradict each other a little bit. Like Wheeler's talking about finesse and Baracchini's talking about basically powering through a bowling ball through the middle of the ice. But that's what the writers and scouts are saying. News so far at a training camp, Troy, has not been great. What I'm seeing are terms like underwhelming. Martin St. Louis had talked about also taking a measured approach. So those are not, I guess, positive indicators to me that he'll be on the squad to start the season.
Yeah, not the biggest hype train coming into or out of preseason, but doing my deep analysis, I think I saw him play a couple times on a game. I was kind of flipping through and watching, and to me, he kind of looked a little bit lost at times. Now, obviously, I have about a 3-shift frame of reference, so don't take my word for the gospel, but he did seem like he was struggling a little bit in the stuff that I saw.
Well, I was reading articles from a few days ago that were talking about the underwhelming nature of his performance so far. And then, of course, like clockwork last night, and I had been entering my research into our show notes, and then like clockwork last night, he goes out and plays his best game. We're recording this on Tuesday evening, so this would have been a Monday night, in a 5-1 loss to Toronto. They said that he was skating with more confidence, that he's using his size well. I think he had an assist on a power play goal. I don't know if there's enough time left in camp for that to make a big difference. In saying that, though, Troy, the Canadiens have been pretty public that they're not going to try to rush him onto the NHL roster. I included a quote here because I thought it was good from the GM, Kent Hughes. And he says, "If we do what we said when we drafted him, we weren't looking for the best 18-year-old. We were looking for the best NHL player down the road. And I don't think we do that without making the best decision for him. Whether it's the popular decision or not, we're going to do what we believe is right." So again, I think they're setting expectations that he'll probably start in the AHL for the year, which I don't think is a horrible thing. And I don't think people should look at that. The kid's 18 years old. It's not super common to get drafted at 18 and start 2 months later on the active roster for your team. Throughout the rest of the preseason, though, just like last night, they're going to try to give him a bunch of chances. I think they've talked about moving him up to a top 6 role, getting him some more exposure on the power play. So I do think that they want to give him a fair shot. From a hockey card perspective, I think we see him this year as a young gun if he does make the roster out of camp. But if he's as far off as maybe some of the indicators have been, I could maybe see him being like Matt Boldy last year, right? Where maybe the earliest then would be right after Christmas, first part of January. And then it's too late for Series 2. Yeah. I don't think they're going to Upper Deck is going to put a number 1 draft pick in extended. So you're probably looking at 2023, 24 Series 1 or 2, where you would maybe see that Young Guns card. I don't know. You jive with that?
Yeah, that makes sense. I'm just curious what if he plays really well in the last week here, now that they're giving him a little more shot in those top role minutes, and it would be really interesting how that plays out. But it probably would be good for him to go to the AHL and work on his game a little. And it's not unprecedented. A lot of players do that.
So it seems like he has a good combination of size and speed. He knows how to use it. He's still pretty young and might have room to grow, but it's all going to depend on really the next few days as to what his hockey card prospects look like this year. So we'll definitely keep on top of that. Also, in the next day or two, we will post another poll to our Instagram stories, and we'll give some more options for next week. Because I think this has been, we've gotten some good feedback, and I think it's good information for all of us to have. I know I'm learning a ton just by doing the work.
Yeah.
All right, Troy, you had some more breakout candidates you wanted to talk about.
Yeah, you talk about having fun. Like these are fun also, just to kind of do deep dives on some players that I wasn't too familiar with. So in the past 3 episodes, we've looked at some deep dives around players that we think could have breakout seasons. We did one where we had some Calder candidates and then some not so obvious candidates, some more veteran players. We've also looked at some blue chip players, so the big names that you've heard of. And then we focused on some top goalie candidates this year. So when I was thinking about what I wanted to do for this episode, I really liked finding those kind of guys you're not thinking about and wanted to look at some more of them, some of those additional breakout candidates. And
like I said, crazy part about this is really going to be our last preview.
Yeah. That makes sense. Week,
I mean, right? Next week it'll be the season. So
yeah. That's kind of funny. I knew that, but I didn't really think about it like that. And I was saying, like, we know the top players in the NHL, but I want to continue looking to find one of those potential diamonds in the rough. Am I going to say these guys are going to have their card value shoot up thousands of %? No, but they're kind of interesting from what they could do as the season progresses. Again, given that they're in a right situation, some of their growth. I am going to start with Dylan Dubé. Have you heard of Dylan? Josh?
No. Is that bad?
No, it's not. So he's with the Calgary Flames. I kind of chuckled. I put him his position as any forward position because it seems like he plays all over the place. 24 years old. So last year he had 18 goals, 14 assists for 32 points. However, in the playoffs he was pretty brutal with only 1 assist. He's on a 4-year career so far. He's had 36 goals, 39 assists for 75 points. And he actually ended the regular season last year with 8 goals in 9 games. So kind of came flying into the playoffs and then kind of had a rough outing. What really should benefit him is that the Flames have obviously made some additions, even though they lost Johnny Hockey and Tkachuk. They've brought in some really good players that should help Dubé the most. He can benefit from consistency. Last year, they moved him all over the place. Lines up and down, positions all over the place. He was basically multiple line, multiple position player, and he never really stuck. There was always somewhere to move him. So getting some of these higher end guys in that they picked up and what they have already, he should benefit from consistency, which would be a huge driver for him. Right.
Well,
now,
with Huberdeau, he's an assist machine.
Yeah.
So somebody's going to benefit from that, right?
Yeah, and it just ends up where Dubé can end up with. If you take a look at him, he's like you call him a middle six. He's not really top six. He's kind of that middle six role, which isn't a bad thing if you get enough skilled players around you. And Calgary has a lot of skilled players, but he does get very, very interesting if he can jump to that top six role, which there is potential to do with his play, and if he progresses this year like he has in the past. If you look at the Flames depth chart right now, he could possibly slate in as a number 2 right winger. That could change. It's preseason. They're moving people all over the place. But you put him on a line with Nazem Kadri and I can never say names. Mangiapane. I think it's Mangiapane. That's a pretty good line mates to have. And if he can get with that line, he could really produce. Also, even though I said, kind of drive that consistency, he also has that ability to move around if they need him to, which only helps him, get playing time and can match him up with where he needs to be. And hopefully he gets in a spot where he can be a threat. Kind of his off ice, there's a lot of talk about his work ethic off the ice. He's top fitness level. It's funny, they said when you walk into the Flames weight room, his picture is the one there. There's a big, huge blow up of him lifting or working out. So they said they give him a lot of crap for that, but it's kind of funny that he's the one they used. And then, so from all that, he definitely has a potential with what the Flames are doing to possibly get in the top 6 role and really have a productive season and build off 32 points from last year. I am going to be full transparency. He captained a Team Canada team in 2018. If you've been following all that stuff, Hockey Canada is in a complete meltdown right now with investigations. He's obviously looped in somehow. Nothing's come out about him. And the only thing he said is that he's fully cooperating with everything. So just remember that. It's kind of that ominous cloud that's hanging over him, but can't speculate. Nothing's came out specifically on him, but it's just something that's out there. Looking at his card value, 2018, 19 Young Guns, PSA 10, there's a pop about 58. So it's really low, but you can kind of find it here and there. The last one I found for sale sold for $39 in August. And if you want to get his raw card, it's $2. But again, this is a guy, I think he can get put in a really good situation if kind of things, you'll hear this a lot, if things fall right, and he can have a really productive year.
Well, it seems like Calgary is going to be one of those really interesting teams where there's a million new pieces, and it's going to be fun to see how they all fit together or don't, right?
Yeah, for sure. So that was our first guy. The next one is Nicolas Aube-Kubel from the Maple Leafs. Again, I might have screwed up the Aube part. I can never say names.
You said it with flair, though, and I kind of like that.
I did. He's with the Maple Leafs, 26-year-old right winger, or listed as a right wing. I mean, the new age of hockey, these guys can play all over the place usually. Last year, his stats, he had 11 goals, 12 assists, 23 points. He was with Colorado. Here's what's really interesting about him. He has produced a little above 2 points per 60 minutes at even strength. While being an absolute role player, that could mean third line or even fourth line checking duties. So he can actually score, and he's a point producer at even strength. over 2 points per 60 minutes is pretty good. His main driver is can he get on a line with more skilled players and not be relegated to a checking line? With Toronto, there's definitely an opportunity for him to do that. I think they're going to probably try to maybe move him up a little and see what he can really do from a productivity standpoint. Austin Matthews has come out and talked about him, how impressed he is by Kubel. He's talked about his playmaking, his skill. He's really impressed by him, which is funny to hear, a guy that's usually been a fourth line role player. And the thing is, when you're a fourth liner or a checking line, you don't get a lot of minutes. But to put up the productivity he has in that role, if you give him increased playing time, which I think Toronto's planning to do, that's kind of the driver with him. It'll be interesting how he can produce, and can he produce more and get higher than 23 points.
Well, Colorado's stacked, so it makes sense that there's a chance to have players with potential that just don't get the opportunity.
Yep.
My key question on Abe Kubel is, has he grown a sweet mustache?
With a name like that, he should have a sweet mustache. Yeah, you bring up a good point, because it's interesting. Some of these guys get lost kind of in the shuffle, like Kubel probably did in Colorado, because they were so skillful. And just, again, new situation, different people you're playing with, different personnel. He could really have a breakout season this year. From a skill standpoint, I mean, he's fast, he's physical, obviously, tenacious forechecker. Now, with that increased production, if he can get up in a higher line, does that mean he's going to score 20 goals this year? I doubt it. However, there is potential, but it's highly unlikely he's going to get 20 goals, but he should definitely see a jump in his production. And if you look, he's got a 14% shooting percentage, which, again, I'm not the biggest on shooting percentage, but that's pretty good for a checking line player. And here's another thing, too, and I think people forget about these. All these guys in the NHL, even if you're like a fourth line checking, you're known as a big physical guy, they probably all scored when they were in juniors or the minors. A lot of them put in a ton of goals. They all usually have some type of skill. And he scored 21 goals in 80 AHL games. So obviously that might not translate to the NHL, but he's got a scoring side to him. So what do I think? I mean, I think he could put up more than 30 points. I think he's another one of those really intriguing players that if pieces fall in, he could impress and maybe see a slight bump, maybe 30, 40, 45 points for a season, which would be good for him. Just basically ends up where he lands.
Yeah.
Now, from a card perspective, maybe it's the same thing. It's a 2018-19 Young Guns. The raw's $2. There's only 2 graded PSA 10s. And his Young Guns, he's in a Flyers jersey, and I don't know why I even looked this up, but I had to. With his only 2 graded cards, Gritty has more graded Young Guns than Kubel does. So I thought that was kind of funny. But
well, other than Elias, I'm going off the top of my head here, but other than Elias Pettersson and somebody else, Gritty might be the second or third or even most valuable Young Guns in that whole year.
It might be. It's definitely the most valuable mascot. Next one, we are going to go with Dylan Cozens from Buffalo. 21-year-old center. Most people have heard of him. This is one that maybe is not going out on too big of a limb, but last year he had 13 goals, 25 assists for 38 points. However, if you remember, he had a huge drop-off at the end of the year. Scored only 2 goals in the last 3 months of the season.
Girlfriend problems, you think?
I don't know what it was. I mean, something was going on, but if he wants to have a breakout season or get more increased playing time, he's got to produce more scoring. You can't have a stretch like that and expect to be a top 6 forward in the NHL. What was interesting about him is he went and played for the World Championships this year, and his specific feedback from the GM of Buffalo was, you need to work on your scoring. You need to score, and you almost need to be more selfish. And he actually delivered. He tied the tournament lead with 7 goals in 10 games. So he obviously has a scoring touch. He's working on it. I think he knows that was a shortcoming of his game. He has had an absolute kind of a brutal shooting percentage his first 2 years of 6.5% and 8.1%. But you get that, if he works on it and you get it north of 10%, it kind of translates into a 20 to 30 goal score, which would be a big deal for him. Plus, it's Buffalo. They got a young, exciting team. I think there's a lot of opportunity for him. He's really good at getting scoring chances off zone entries, and he can distribute the puck. So he's getting these opportunities. He's got to convert. That's the thing with him. If he starts converting, you can see those points jump huge.
He had all the hype right out of the gate.
Yeah,
do you remember when the 2020 sets first came out? I think his value, if I'm correct, was more than Kaprizov. It was Lafreniere and Cozens.
It was huge. He was always one you talked about too. And even when the season started, he actually started out okay and pretty good, and then that drop off at the end of the half. And so, again, he's got the ability to he's got to put the puck in the net. That's a big thing with him. He's a great team player, locker room presence. They all talk about how he's team player first and all that stuff. He's also a big guy, 6'3", can throw his frame around, generate turnovers. So I think you put all that together. If you can find that scoring touch, he should have a really good breakout season. From a card perspective, as you were just saying, his obviously 2020 Young Guns, his PSA 10 is a pop of 224, and it goes for around 110. So it's still up there, but not what it once was. I don't think. Obviously, none of these guys are ones they once were with how things have come down. But,
sure, it's like lingering hype is keeping him there, probably not production, right?
Yeah, I think, but he really digging into him. He kind of excites me from that kind of perspective. All right, on to the next one. Next one I looked at was Seth Jarvis, forward for the Carolina Hurricanes. Another young one, 20 years old. He had 17 goals, 23 assists last year for 40 points. And I wrote down of the list of players I've already went through, the three that I've already went through, and then the one I'm going to go through after. I think on this list, Jarvis is the one most poised right now to have a breakout season. He actually had a really strong rookie season. He should continue to produce. He should be a projected first line right winger, and he'll have Sebastian Aho at center, which is always good. Last year, he had 2.5 points per 60 minutes, so he was definitely a production machine. He was higher than, I can't remember where he exactly was, but he was higher than some of the more highly touted rookies. I don't have the exact list, but I remember seeing him. He was up in the top 5 or 4 of rookies. He has a ton of skill. He can generate scoring chances. He can do offensive zone entries with control, find open men. He should get a lot of opportunity with the line he's on. He'll get those top 6 playing minutes. He'll get power play opportunities. So everything is kind of set up for him to have a really nice year this year, along with that ice time increase. And I just put down, he's on the cusp of taking that next jump to that next level. Is he going to be a superstar? Not yet, but I think he can get into that star role with Aho and that first line at Carolina.
Mm-hmm. There's a larger.
Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I think that there's a larger kind of conversation around this whole crop of 2021 rookies.
Yeah.
And if you compare it to 2020 or 2019 or just like the last few years, there's a huge amount of guys that people seem to really be backing.
Yeah.
By one measure, by their hobby value. So it'll be fascinating to see of the 10 or 15 guys right now whose young guns are $10, $15 and up, who really breaks through. And it seems like from what the feedback that we've gotten, just tracking the values, hearing people communicate in break rooms or communicate with us directly, it seems like a lot of people really think that Jarvis has a chance to be that guy.
Yeah, for sure. And I didn't say this, his raw goes around. Yeah, his raw card goes for around $20, $22. I forgot to put that in there. Oh no, I was just going. Yeah, okay. I messed up. So his young gun PSA 10. I only found a pop 2. Now that I'm reading that, it seems really low, but I'm pretty sure I double checked that. So someone correct me if I'm wrong. That's why I put his raw value as like 20.
I know that for a fact because it's the only 2 PSA 10s from extended at all right
now. There you go. So I'm not crazy. I was sitting there I had a crisis of confidence like we've talked about.
Well, you have to remember though so when did extended come out? Was it late August, early September, something like that?
Yeah, that sounds right, yeah.
Right, and PSA's got a 6-week-ish turnaround time, so it hasn't been long enough to really see who people are grading.
Yeah, I don't think a lot of people are rushing out to do rush service on his his young guns.
No.
All right, so that's Seth Jarvis. Obviously, for me, I think he's the one of the list that has the biggest breakout potential. My 5th player is Arturi Lehkonen forward from the Colorado Avalanche, 27 years old. He last year had 19 goals and 19 assists for 38 points. If you remember, he came to Colorado last year via trade and kind of went nuts and had 9 points in 16 regular season games with the Avs. And then the playoffs, he just took it to another level and had 14 points in 20 games with 8 goals. And you remember he scored some big ones. He scored the game-winning goal in Game 6 of the Cup Finals. So this is a guy that just came to Colorado and excelled. And obviously he's staying at Colorado. He signed a big new shiny 5-year deal. He should continue to flourish. The amount of skill and players he will be surrounded by at Colorado is probably one of the top in the NHL. He'll be a top 6 forward. He'll see a substantial jump in playing time. He's another guy, he's got really good forechecking ability, good at getting turnovers and then distributing the puck. Another thing with him this year coming into Colorado is he should see power play minutes as well, which will obviously help his production. Looking at it, there's just a lot to like with him being on Colorado and the situation he finds himself in. If he can continue how he ended, once he got traded and how he just kind of went bonkers and contributed to Colorado, if he can continue that, I think he has a nice potential to have a good breakout season.
It sounds like it. He'll obviously be on a great team. There'll be a ton of exposure. I'm guessing, well, we could probably check. I haven't even thought to do this yet, but I'm sure that Colorado is going to have their fair share of the games of the week and national TV games. So that really helps drive hype and could be a factor in his card values if he performs well.
And I guess one thing you say about him, though, if he doesn't produce, there's someone right behind him that would take his spot. Colorado is not short of top-notch players. From a card value perspective, he's a 2016 Young Guns. His PSA 10 only has a pop of 28, and its last sale was $47, and that was in September. And his raw is like $5 to $6. So if he can produce and go off of that, increase that 38 points with Colorado, could be some interesting movement there.
That is a good breakdown, and I guess really concludes our preview series for the upcoming season. So hopefully we've given you guys some players to look into or some ideas of who you might want to pick up, and that could potentially see some gains this year. We're going to transition now to hobby news. There's a lot of hobby news this week, Troy. Unfortunately, a good portion of it isn't that great.
Yeah, I was going to say, it seems like it's all negative, for God's sake.
Wanted to start with, and I know a lot of people have seen this, there was a number of fake patches or altered cards that were discovered last week. Primarily, the ones we saw were Jason Robertson and Jake Ottinger. We were alerted to it from our listener and Instagram follower at Case Hits Read. Unfortunately, he was one of the pretty big victims of this, so definitely feel for him in this regard. And the thing that stinks about these cards in particular that have these fake or altered patches is they were really, really important cards, like the Future Watch auto patches, where basically the card was produced. If it's a Future Watch auto patch, it's not going to be a napkin, but maybe a 2-color patch where somebody bought the card on eBay, took a better patch, I guess, quote unquote, right? Maybe a part of a logo or something like that, somehow has the ability to remove patch A, insert patch B, and then we'll relist the card. Obviously, it makes the card much more valuable. And when you look at the sales history from these cards, you can tell the card with the original patch sold for X amount, and then in a lot of cases, it was double or more once this person or persons. We're not going to sit and accuse anyone. We'll let the people that are more equipped to figure that out sort it out. And so it really stinks. And it's, if you're asking, well, how did they know? These types of cards are all serial numbered, right? And so searching through sales history, and this is where I guess I'll throw in a plug for our partners, Card Ladder, is they have the longest sales history or deepest sales history, I guess how you want to put it, where you can go back and look 10, 15 years ago. Now, in the case of a Robertson Future Watch Auto, you don't need to go back that far, but you can find these old sales. Most of them have photos. And when people were doing that, they were finding, a card that's maybe 81 out of 100 that has one patch, and then a next sale with another patch. So it's super unfortunate. it's probably a Captain Obvious statement, but this is not the first time that it's happened. And it's a little bit, it's somewhat of probably an ongoing epidemic throughout the hobby. Trey, I think the reason for us to bring it up and why I wanted to talk about it with you is more so not the gossipy sort of news of the day stuff. It's more, what can we do about this? Because it kind of scares me to buy a card like that. And frankly, I think it should scare everybody. And then, Trey, I don't know if you saw this, but just an hour or so ago before we recorded, we got contacted by another one of our listeners who had a comment about our Instagram post today where we did the top Steve Yzerman sales ever.
Yep, I did.
The number 2 sale was an exquisite, I think it's the rookie flashback patch auto. And he had said he had bought that card from the Golden Auction and was later contacted by someone who's noteworthy in the hobby. Don't have their permission to mention, so I don't want to do that. And let him know that that's a fake patch.
Yep.
And he ended up getting it resolved through Golden. They refunded him the money. But again, it's like, geez, this seems to be coming at us all over the place right now.
Yeah.
And so I'll go back to what do we do about it?
Yeah, it's really interesting. Like, it's funny because, I kind of have 3 thoughts, I think. One, I remember looking at Ottinger cards, and I probably looked at some of these that were for sale. 2, I'm wondering, too, they don't even have to buy a second card to do the swap. If you're good enough, you can probably just go get a jersey from, an authentic jersey and cut your own patch if you wanted to and try to stick that in there. Once you sell these high-value cards, it's probably worth a little, more than maybe the cost of the jersey. And then 3rd, I think I've brought up this idea. I think you were going to kind of allude to what we can do. And I've always thought, I wish somehow the card companies, in this case, Upper Deck, could scan these cards and have a database where you could go look at it. Besides, the only thing you can do now is if it's graded, obviously you can find some stuff on it. But I've always thought they should have a way to scan every card, and maybe it's too costly or not easy to do, but I always thought that would help a little bit. I don't have the solution. It sucks. And obviously, like you said, it's happened before and it's going to happen again.
The goal, I don't think, is to put this all on Upper Deck, but you kind of have to, because they're the only people that know what these patches look like before they get into a pack. And I'm sure it would be a pain. It would be costly. It's an expense that it doesn't enhance their revenue from any perspective, but it kind of, or I guess we're really talking about the integrity of the hobby, and I would argue they have a vested interest in that. Right?
Yeah, I think they have a vested interest, but I can also see that they don't need to play cop. It's not their job to be the cop of the hobby. They're not the ones swapping it, but they are in the best position to be the one that might have the best way to stop it by doing something. I don't know if there's some other way where they can solve this, but off the top of my head, having some kind of repository of images would definitely help.
100%. I think the takeaways for now, where there isn't that database, are you have to be really careful when you buy these cards. You have to do research. If you have access to something like Card Ladder, that's great. If you want to support us, the link is in our show description too. That's, we would appreciate that. But don't just assume that any patch card is authentic at this point, and especially if you're going to spend in the thousands of dollars, I would want to look for some assurance or provenance that the card is authentic. Kind of a cousin to this issue, Troy, is the next topic. I don't know if you saw this, but there was I'll credit Coach Co on TikTok. Honestly, his TikTok is amazing. If you guys aren't following him, you should do that. He had pointed out that 2 people had discovered that they both have a 2021-22 clear-cut Ovechkin UD canvas, hand numbered 5 of 8. To me, this is a big deal because Ovi doesn't seem like he's autographing many cards right now. So you pull this card, you have a big hit. But the obvious question, of course, is how can there be 2 5 out of 8? Coach Co, I don't think he had a conclusion to this story, And it could be a mistake. Maybe Ovechkin was distracted or something like that and forgot the sequence. I mean, it's to 8, though. It's not like it's on a 999. I'm just wondering, like, what would you do in that situation other than contact Upper Deck right away?
I mean, all you can do is contact Upper Deck and show them what you got and show them the evidence, and maybe get that other person that you found had the same card or the same numbering on the card. Yeah, I don't know how quality control works if they do keep logs or anything. That's the only thing I can think of. I mean, anything else is just talking to the other person. I don't know where you bought it from or where you got it, if you have any recourse with them. It's one of those situations where you kind of throw your hands up and go back to Upper Deck and see what they can do.
My guess is that it's probably a production issue. I would think a clear-cut UD canvas card that's encapsulated and sealed would be really hard to fake. That's not something you can print off at your Kinko's necessarily. So, yeah, I don't know. But if we do see kind of a result on any of these, we'll be sure to share it. And I think, the reason to highlight these is just to be careful, people. Make sure you do your research, especially when you're making big investments in these cards, because it's obviously sucks when you buy something that turns out to be not legitimate and you're kind of at zero from a value standpoint there. Okay, let's switch to more pleasant topics. So here's an interesting situation. This is a quick hitter, Troy, but I was interested on your perspective on it. So Trevor Zegras last year, his rookie year, wore number 46. And I think the reason was, at least in the Anaheim culture, they kind of want their rookies or their players to earn their number. So they just throw a number out of the bin at you when you start. And he played well enough last year where he was able to go back to his more traditional 11. So that makes sense from that perspective. When I heard that, what I immediately thought of was, well, what about all these jersey match serial numbered cards? What does that do to the value?
Yeah, personally, jersey matching the serial number does not matter to me one bit. However, it does matter to some people, and it definitely can affect the value of a card. I don't think it matters. It's whatever. I would say whatever jersey he's in at the time. If he's in the 46 and you have the 46, by changing to 11, I don't think that changes the value. It's still a jersey, or it's still a number match. But then going forward, 11 becomes the new jersey match to me. I don't see it affecting it. Maybe other people have examples of this in the past or anything, but to me, it's not that big of a deal.
I think I agree with you that if you're into jersey match, it's most important that the number, the serial number matches the number in the photo on the card.
Maybe that's a situation where you can't see the number. Maybe that's where it becomes an issue. I don't know.
Yeah, who knows? Okay, next kind of fun topic is, so the Kraken unveiled their mascot, Bowie. Did you see him?
I saw Bowie.
To me, he looks kind of like a cartoony version of a Fraggle Rock character. Is that a good description?
So this thing, I'm going to jump in my opinion. I always said it looked like one of those mascots designed by a committee. And if you know anything about committees, they never design what you want, what the right thing or whatever. Think about the Pontiac Aztec. If you don't know about it, go read about it. Ugliest looking car, and it was designed by a committee. Now this thing is supposed, I did my research. I read up on this thing. This thing is supposed to be a troll. And in the literature that the Kraken released, he lives under the ice rink. So That's all I can say. I kind of stopped reading after that, but I did take a step back and think about this. I bet when Gritty was announced and everyone saw Gritty, they're like, what is that orange grimace looking thing? And now Gritty's like the most popular mascot in the NHL, and everyone loves him. So maybe Bowie will grow on us. But first impression,
you could have never predicted that Gritty would have the impact he would. But I just think that he seems to fit the zeitgeist of the Philadelphia fan.
Yeah, crazy. Is that what you're trying to say?
No,
Irish flag.
Those are your words.
That wasn't to you.
Remember, all hate mail, please put in care of Troy. I think it's worth bringing up just because expect to see him on a mascot card in the near future. And
they better have his life story, how he lives under the arena and all that stuff.
Oh, jeez. Okay, last bit of hobby news is we do have one local card show shout out. So this is from Instagram listener and follower from the bench. He sent us, there's a Hub City sports card show in Moncton, New Brunswick in Canada, of course, on October 15th from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. The address is 84 Broadway Street. Obviously, in Canada, I think they'll have some good hockey there. So if you're in the area, I'm sure they would love to see you, and definitely report back to us any good finds or buys that you have. This is just a great reminder to please send us your local card show shoutouts. We definitely want to help promote local card shows. There is a section in our Discord for our Patreon supporters where you can add them there. Otherwise, you can message us on Instagram or Facebook. And yeah, we want to be doing tons of these every week. So be sure to get those in. Okay, Troy, you had mentioned in our game plan the 5K challenge, $5,000 challenge.
Yeah,
so this is something new we're trying. I think it's fun. I'm pretty excited about it. Who knows if it'll whimper out or if people will really dig it. So given that the new season's upon us, I was trying to think of ways to, like, how can you make hockey cards like fantasy football?
Yeah.
And so I came up with the idea of, well, let's say we had a fictitious $5,000 budget that we were able to spend, quote unquote, and buy up to 12 hockey cards using recent sales comps, and then track them throughout the year monthly, or throughout the season monthly, and have a winner at the end of the season, right? So, right, the official, I guess, what we consider from a hockey card perspective, the end of the season is really culminates with the day after the Stanley Cup Finals, where you're going to have all the hype buys from the big winners of whoever won the cup. So Troy and I spent time. We took our $5,000. We each made our picks. Can't go over it. And we're going to share those with you guys. And then we're going to do updates, maybe monthly or so throughout the year. And we'll see who made the picks. I thought the other kind of good reason to do this, Troy, is we've launched our show at the end of May. We've done a ton of research on hockey cards this summer. So it's kind of a good test for us to see if we've actually learned anything.
I will admit I'm kind of nervous. What if I go from 5,000 to 0? Mine are all fire.
I think the market's in trouble kindling there.
Yeah.
Here's the best part about this, though. We want you guys to compete with us and participate with this too in our Discord, which once again you have access to if you choose to support us through Patreon. You can submit your picks for the 5K challenge. And all the rules are in the Discord, and I'm not going to spend a time to go through them now, but you can see them in there. And like I said, compete against us. And at the end of the season, we are going to declare the winner. Within that, whoever wins, we're going to have a special Discord role that declares you the 5K challenge winner. You'll have special access and privileges within Discord. But most importantly, I think, though, you'll have ultimate bragging rights for a year, Troy.
Yep.
And that you, for that season, made the best picks of cards as far as increasing value.
I like it.
So that's how it works. I thought this was also, last thing I'll say is a good way for maybe to continue to give people ideas of not advice on who to buy. Because like Troy said, we have no clue whether these guys are going to go up or down over the next 6 months.
We'll say educated guesses,
yeah. But if any of these players or cards that we're selecting give you an idea of someone else to look into, or if you want to do your own research, that's a win for us too. So I use the maximum 12 cards. And my first one is the 2020 Kirill Kaprizov Young Guns PSA 10. Last sale is $359. Here's why I picked this card. He had an amazing year last year, but the card has taken a huge beating, especially over the last 6 months. Primarily, we think because of the crazy increase in pop count. If you recall back into the spring, it was one of the most submitted cards to PSA. And of course, that's going to bring down value. But I just think it has to be at or near the bottom at this point, assuming that he's going to play really well against this year. And I was going to try not to mention that you bought it at $750.
Oh, yeah. I bought this thing near the top.
But I can't resist. So I think at $359, it's a pretty good deal. The next one that I chose is a 2017 Jesper Bratt Young Guns PSA 10. I've been pretty high on him since last year and looking at this would maybe fall into your breakout performers for last year. He was definitely one of them. He had a career high, I think 73 points, or he had 73 points at a career high in goals. The Devils are going to be better this year. So I think if he can continue on that play, that there's some upside there. 2005 Alex Ovechkin Young Guns SGC 10, 2880. So this is my biggest investment, Troy, on my list. There's two reasons why I got this card. The hype is just going to keep going crazy as he approaches the Gretzky goal mark. And again, I'm assuming he'll stay on track to do that. And I'm curious this year on, and I guess I'm hopeful on SGC, in that if you look at over the last couple of months, where we've had all these record sales, whether it be for Mickey Mantle or Honus Wagner, we've seen some pretty big Gordie Howe rookies. SGC overall has had a pretty good run, I would say. But from hockey, they're really lagging. So I guess I'm banking that gap is going to close a little bit this year, because at 2880, that's significantly less than his PSA 10. Card number 4 is the 2019 Adam Fox Young Guns PSA 10. Right now it's $201. My justification there is I'm not saying he's as good as Makar, but if you look at the gap, like what's Makar, around 900 right now?
Yeah.
He's not 4 times worse than him, if that makes sense. So I think there's more likelihood that he plays well and that gap closes than Makar's value doubles. Next guy is, I think, a pretty obvious one, or might be obvious to some people. It's a 2019 Jack Hughes Young Gun PSA 10. He really seems primed to take that star to superstar kind of jump this year. And if he does, I think you're going to see it at $237. It's pretty low at this point. So I thought that would be a good one. Then I had a 2021 Trevor Zegras Young Gun PSA 10, which is $390. I think there's 2 core reasons why this is maybe something to look at. The first is he seems to have the entire NHL hype machine behind him right now. And then if you look at, we did a post that compared Series 1 2021 Young Guns to Series 2, and specifically the gem rates. His gem rate right now is 27%. So that leads you to believe that we're not going to see a Kaprizov type rise in gem rate, because the quality of Series 1 from last year, I don't know if can produce as many PSA 10s as, at 27%. So to me, I think that's a little insurance, if that's a good way to put it. My next guy was a Mason McTavish Young Guns Raw. Right now it's $36. There really isn't hardly any PSA 10 to buy, but he's really the breakthrough star of the offseason, if there is one, with his heroics at the World Juniors. I just feel like he's going to play well this year. It's kind of call it a gut feeling. So at $36, I thought it was a decent buy. Then I have a 2021 Vasily Podkolzin Young Guns PSA 10. To me, it's $85 right now. So Troy, to me, he feels a little under the radar. He kind of is one of those guys that's primed to take that jump. And I think Vancouver is counting on that. So at $85, it felt like a good investment. From there, it was a 2021 OPG Cole Caulfield, the Platinum Preview Red Prism out of 50. Personally, I love the Platinum Preview cards in OPG this year. This one's a PSA 9 at $80. Cole had a really strong year last year. I think he's going to play well again this year. So I don't love that it's a PSA 9, but this is where the budget and kind of the fun of this game or contest comes in, where you really have to not only, just find cards that you think are great or have the chance to go up in value, but kind of give you enough hedging room, but also help you stay in budget.
Yeah, I'm going to tell you, like I told Josh this, I have this card. I don't have the PSA 9, but I have a raw version of it that I pulled from a pack. The only downside to this card, I think, is the picture is awful. The color match is cool, but I think the picture looks ridiculous if you look it up. Probably doesn't affect it that much, but...
Well, maybe I'll come steal it from you, and then
good.
I'll look at the picture.
I got number 3 out of 50. All
right, so I have 3 left. 2019 OPG Platinum Cale Makar Rainbow PSA 10. It's $295. Would I not include the Wonder Boy on a pick list like this, right? So I had to get him in there somewhere. I'm a little worried about his PSA 10 Young Guns at $900 in that how do you have a better year than he had last year? And how does he build on that? So it's like, what are the odds that he'll either play the same or take a step backwards, and what could that do to value? So just under $300, I felt like that let me get a Makar in my picks, but not take a huge amount of the budget. Plus, I love the card design, and the rainbows. To me, I think one of the benefits of especially the 2019s is that they almost have like a silver prism feel, like the Panini prism, and it really makes the card pop. Two more. Okay, so 2019 Elias Pettersson Young Guns PSA 10, $150. Another Vancouver guy. I think if he continues to grow his game, that there's some upside in that card. My final pick is a complete homer pick because I have to go with my boy Kaprizov again. I needed to spend like $70 or something like that. And I found a 2019 OPG Platinum Kaprizov, the rainbow parallel. This one's an SGC 9.5. I wish I could give you some really great inside information as to why I think this card is going to go up in value, but I'm just hoping and praying he plays well, and it's a total homer pick. Okay, so my total value based on all 12 of those cards is $4,995. So I stayed under the 5,000 mark. It was a lot. I mean, there's 12 cards I just rattled through. I did post those already into the Discord and the 5K Challenge channel. So if you want to look at them, they're there, and posted yours as well. You have a shorter list. You did not use all 12.
I have 9 cards. I'll tell everyone right off the bat. And unlike Josh, who made copious notes on everything, I did not make copious notes. I just kind of followed some general guidelines of, I like stars, but I also took some risk with some, I don't know, people I've mentioned kind of in our breakthrough segment, and I kind of have a couple that I'm using for hedging. But I will just go through my list. Unlike Josh, I think Cale Makar is going to have another fantastic year, and I think there is room for his PSA 10 Young Guns to go up from that 900 value and get back to, I don't know, in the 1,200 to 1,400 range. But obviously he's got to play maybe better than last year, which is the risk of that. But my first card was the 2019 Cale Makar Young Guns PSA 10. Pop is high-ish at $1,459. And like Josh said, it's $900. My second card, I wanted to have some kind of a vintage card, I guess is the word. And I chose a 1980 OPG Wayne Gretzky PSA 8. Pop 803, and I thought it was good price at $400, so I added that one, and hoping that Gretzky just keeps a steady rise and keeps selling $1 million record setting or whatever to his rookie card, keeps setting records, and kind of lifts these other ones with him. So,
that surprised me at Pop. It's a really cool card to first off the bat, I guess.
Yeah, and
Pop isn't crazy. It's still an investor grade? Don't they say that like 8 is it? I think, or is it 9? Or maybe I don't know. Right around there, and at $400.
Yeah, that's why I mean.
I wouldn't mind having that card.
Yeah, it stood out to me. I might want to go try to buy myself. Third card, I think, Josh, you had this card, but I think you had a different grade, if I remember. Or
I had SGC 10.
Okay, I had the Young Guns Alexander Ovechkin. I did a PSA 9, which has a pop of 824 and $1,600. So the PSA 10 was a little out of the range for I can't remember, but I don't think I'd have much left if I just bought that one, or I'd be.
That's like almost 5,000 now, isn't it? I'm totally going to have. It's like 4,500 or something.
Yeah, I remember it was almost to the top of the range. That's why I was like, well, I can't get this, or I'm gonna have, unless I mean you could take one shot on a card and think the goal chase is going to propel it and lead you to victory. So that was my third card. So 4, 5, and 6 are kind of put your money where your mouth is selections for me. They're people I talked about on the breakouts. So my card number 4 is a 2020 Young Guns for Dylan Cozens. PSA 10, Pop 224. Obviously, I've given all the reasons why I think he can have a great year. $110. Card 5, 2020 Young Guns, Ilya Sorokin. PSA 10, Pop 154. I still think he is just poised to take that step to the next level and be one of those top two or three goalies in the league. And that card was $130. And I think it was 2 episodes ago where I kind of talked about Sorokin and his pedigree and what I think he can do for this year. Card number 6, guy I talked about today, 2016 Young Guns for Arturi Lehkonen, PSA 10. Now this one, low pop, 28. The last sale I could find was around $47. Again, I think there's enough, it's a risk. You can lose $47, but I think the potential to gain is greater, especially the situation he's in right now and how well he ended last year. So I think this card has some room to grow, and it's obviously the really low pop. So we'll see how that plays out. My card number 7 was a 2009 Evander Kane Young Guns PSA 9, pop 39, around $79. I just think Kane is poised to have 40 goals this year with the situation he's in with Edmonton and what they can surround him with and how well he did last year. And I think he's got enough of the personal stuff that he was going through behind him to just focus on hockey and not worry about divorce, lawsuits, all that kind of stuff that was going on.
This one surprised me. I didn't think you were a Kane guy at all.
I don't know if I'm the biggest Kane guy, but looking at his season he had, and if you put that other stuff behind him and looking at where he's at now with Edmonton, I think he's poised to have a great year.
From a hockey perspective, I really appreciated, especially in the playoffs, the energy that he brought to his play. So I definitely see it from that perspective.
My 8th card is a 2015 Young Guns, Connor McDavid. This is where I went the SGC 10 route to save some money. Its pop is 43 and its value is I bought it in air quotes for $1,600. So I mean that's almost $1,200 less than the PSA 10, somewhere in there.
Do you feel similar to me about SGC?
Yeah, it's
there's a gap to close.
Yeah, I think there's a gap, and I think they can close it. And it's not like they're a bad company; they're well established. They're tough graders. I think we've seen that. So having an SGC
I'm pretty
10,
sure the last 3 highest selling sports cards ever were all in SGC holders. So that's got to say something, right? I know it has no traction in hockey, but when you have, those are the types of sales that are on CNN. Right. And I think that should build credibility, hopefully, within hockey collectors.
Well, when I looked at the McDavid, I think I looked up the BGS 9.5, and you probably know this off the top of your head. I think the pop that's 7,500 sound right?
It's like, crazy big.
Yeah, it's huge. So I was like, well, that's not going to do much.
And the final thing I would say about SGC is this is a little bit anecdotal because I don't have all the data in front of me, but from all the gem rate research I've done, it seems like they're fairly tough graders.
Yeah.
So I take that as having good confidence if I buy an SGC 10 that it's, they say buy the card, not the grade, that you're going to get the card that reflects the grade.
For sure. And then my final card is a 2020 Young Guns Jake Ottinger PSA 10. This is all predicated on Ottinger's going to ride the playoff wave, even though it was one series, had the greatest playoff almost ever of any goalie, not ever, but it was really good. And just lead it into this season. Now that he's the number one guy, he's got the contract. It's a pop 184 and it was $134. So I'm just riding Ottinger again. He's got to show it during the year. He doesn't have a lot of regular season games in the NHL, but I've always been, we've talked about it before, I've always liked Jake Ottinger. I believe he's an awesome goalie, and I think he'll continue to produce and have a good year. My total value is dead on at $5,000. So I used every penny I had.
See, I think I'm so confident in my picks that I'm like, I'll give you a $5 head start.
I got the $5 head start.
I'm not surprised at all that you threw your boy Audie in there. What did surprise me a little bit about your list as well, and I guess I'll put it this way, is when are you going to write your apology letter to all the Pekka Rinne collectors out there?
I thought about it. I'm like, no, Pekka, he's just Pekka. I could have thrown in a low one just for a personal, but I was at $5,000. I have no money left.
Yeah, it's awesome. What's awesome about you PCing Pekka Rinne is the cards are not expensive.
No, I mean,
it's pretty amazing.
I can get serial numbered 5 patch autos, under $100 usually, there's nowhere near there are some out there that are, $1,000, but few and far between.
Okay. So there's Troy's list. Again, his list as well is on the Discord. This is our attempt to like I said, have a little fun, be a little interactive for Troy and I to compete with each other a little bit. Also for you guys to get into the mix. And so we're hopeful that a bunch of people will join in. We will have some additional prizes that we're going to figure out down the road for the winner too. But I think the main thing is just to get those bragging rights. Okay, wanted to do a little bit of a preseason roundup because as you might imagine, Troy, around this year, there's a lot going on, some good, some not so good. Wanted to start with something that I think is really positive, and it's the NHL Global Series that kicked off this week, where we had a couple NHL teams, so the Predators and Sharks, heading over to Europe. Yesterday, the Predators played SC Bern in Switzerland and won a pretty close game 4-3. What's cool about that is both Roman Josi and Nino Niederreiter are both Swiss athletes, and Bern is Roman Josi's hometown. Oh man, there's a tongue twister. So it's obviously a cool moment for those guys. Tonight, so the night that we're recording, the San Jose Sharks are playing, is it East Bern, Berlin in Germany?
Sounds right.
And then finally, Nashville and San Jose will square up against each other in Prague on October 7th. So I think, Troy, obviously the NHL is trying to bring games outside the U.S. and Canada, and doing so is taking a playbook out of the NBA, out of what the NFL has done over in Europe. And from my perspective, will only help to grow the popularity of not just the league, but the game more internationally. So to me, this stuff is very much a good thing. And I hope the NHL does more and more of it. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, they're actually, in relation to this too, I've noticed on the NHL Instagram account, they've been posting a lot more about Mexican hockey and South America. I think it was a Brazil hockey team. They've been doing a lot more posts about those non-traditional communities and the hockey programs. I can't remember what country it was, but there's like one rink in the whole country. And it's a huge country. I think it might have been Brazil, but they're starting to do some more series on that, which is really cool to see.
That is cool. Now, I guess we get into some not the great news, and kind of wanted to do an injury roundup because it might affect maybe players that you all are looking at for the start of the season. So the first one hurts, Troy. It's my boy Scotty Perunovich, who's from my hometown of Hibbing, Minnesota. Ran into the boards a little bit against the Blackhawks the other day. I don't think it was a super egregious hit, but it broke his shoulder. So he's having surgery and is out for 6 months. It's just brutal. He's a Hobey Baker winner, really, really good player. Torched our Wild team in the playoffs last year, which was weird feelings for me. And he just can't seem to keep healthy, though. And I'm worried that he's not going to be able to consistently play in the NHL because of injuries.
Did he have injury issues in college?
I don't think so, but he tore his labrum, I think his first year pro, and then had a wrist injury last year, and now the broken shoulder. Yeah. So not great there.
Well, we're used to, you go off tangent a little bit, Byron Buxton from the Twins, number 1 overall pick, supposed to be the greatest thing ever, and the guy can't play more than 60 games a year without getting injured.
Next guy is another Minnesota connection, our boy Cam Talbot. Not sure if you saw, he's out 5 to 7 weeks with an upper body injury. So it looks like Anton Forsberg, who was a backup last year, or I don't know if he might have been the starter. Definitely played a lot. He'll kind of carry the load in Talbot's absence. If you're interested in Forsberg and you think that might be an opportunity, because I think a lot of people think that the Senators will be better this year. His 2014 Young Guns in raw goes for about $4 to $5. So it's really kind of dollar box level. Yep. As I noted, last year was really even though it's a 2014 Young Guns, was the first season he had any notable playing time. He was 22, 17, and 4 with a 2.82 goals against and a 917 save percentage. I'm not the goalie coach, you are. Though those don't seem like horrible numbers to me.
Not horrible. The goals against is a little up there, but it's under. You get over 3, then you're like looking at the minors are getting out of the league. But not bad numbers. Save percentage is pretty good. I wonder if he had a lot of shots. Looks like he has a lot of shots, but
yeah. Well, I don't think he's on a great team either, so that probably didn't help. So some other quick hitting injury items. Trevor Zegras took a big hit against the Coyotes. He's listed day to day. Doesn't look super significant, but it might hamper if you're looking for him to hopefully come out and do scorched earth at the beginning of the year. That might be a little bit of an issue. John Tavares will miss the first 3 weeks of the season with an oblique injury. I had to include that because they actually disclosed the injury, and it's like a first I've heard in the NHL.
Yeah, they probably got in trouble. They probably got in trouble for disclosing the actual injury.
Nicholas Backstrom from the Capitals is still recovering from June hip surgery. He'll miss the start of the season. A key component of the Avs, Gabriel Landeskog, will miss the first part of the season as well. I haven't seen a timetable for his return. What I just heard is that he's not ready yet.
Landeskog, he's one of those guys I'm like, I can't stand him, but he's always performing. He always does well against the Wild. So, of course, I'm not going to like him, but I hope he doesn't do well against them, but he always does.
Yeah, just for everyone to know, when you're a Wild fan, and our Minnesota fans will relate to this, anytime we talk about the Blackhawks, the Blues, or the Avalanche, there's going to be sort of a hint of resentment and negativity that we just can't help ourselves. So I'm assuming that's where that came from, Troy. I don't know how big this. It's not a huge deal, but I did want to mention a couple of young guy prospects, particularly guys that had Young Guns last year, that are performing pretty well so far in the preseason. Does it mean they're going to have 50 goals in the regular season? No, but I would argue it's better to be leading in the scoring race than not in the preseason. Tied for first in goals is Igor Chenikov from the Blue Jackets. He has 4. And then you have Shane Pinto with 3 goals, also 3 goals, Tanner Janot, and Matty Beniers. So there's a couple young, 4 young guys that are playing pretty well in the preseason. And if they continue to stay hot at the start of the season, there could be some upside for their young guns there. Really, I think, Troy, what I'm looking forward to from a preseason perspective is next week and I think it's going to be an important show for us in this regard, where we'll have all the information to really go through who made the NHL roster and who didn't from a young player perspective, because that's going to have a huge impact on card values, right? It's hard to go up when you're in the AHL or back at college or in juniors or in Europe somewhere.
Well, it's also interesting because there's 32 teams, and we obviously don't know every single rookie on every teams. So when you get to do the deep dive, then you can focus in on those guys, and we'll see what happened.
So I'm actually looking forward to that. And my last sort of NHL note is this just happened today. You might not have seen this, but I thought it's worth mentioning. Matthew Barzal signed an 8-year agreement to stay with the Islanders. So if you're an Islanders fan, collector, you like Barzal, rest assured he'll be in an Isles sweater for a long time. I don't have any of the particulars. I'm sure it's for pretty good money.
Yeah.
I actually saw him in person last year, and I was really impressed. It was Parise's homecoming game, and I was not impressed. Sorry, Zach. Love you. But
you were impressed by Barzal, right?
Yes, I was impressed by Barzal, not as much Parise, who he's at the end of his career. So
I was looking through I know I saw the notification come through. I was trying to figure out what the salary was. Well, whatever. A lot of money. 8 years.
8 years. Good for him. Okay, so new product releases. I wanted to first talk real briefly about Artifacts, which came out last week, and maybe each of us share a little bit of we've both opened it. Yep. We've watched a number of breaks. Personally, Troy, I really like the card design, especially the base cards. They're really clean. Mm-hmm. And I think when they have patches and autos that they don't get lost in the card design. So kudos to Upper Deck there. From what I've observed, this is a good open if you're a person that likes to get assured of a decent amount of hits, right? Mm-hmm. There's some gamblers that want to open up clear cut and are willing to go broke on boom or bust on your one card. But it's, again, 8 packs, 4 cards per pack. Each pack on average has a hit. There were some collation issues where some packs I saw a 1-card pack in a break. That was a base
Really?
Card. And then there was a pack in the bottom of the box that had like 17 cards in there. I mean, it was crazy.
Yeah, I mean, you might have had this too. I had a pack with 3, and then I had a pack with 5 that had 2 hits in it.
A couple other observations for me, Troy, is I love that all the patches are game used. That just makes me feel, when, unless I'm wrong, but everything I've seen has been game used, and I've seen a fair amount of it. Mm-hmm. Like Tony mentioned a couple weeks ago on our show from Upper Deck, it's awesome that there's no redemptions this year. I think that's a big win for mm-hmm. Artifacts. And then before I get your thoughts, Troy, just quickly from a values perspective, we had done a post a few days ago showing early sales. At that time, the Jeremy Swayman kind of dual patch rookie auto out of 15, which had sold for $750, was a top sale. I checked briefly right before we started recording, and from what I could see, that again was the top sale. Beyond that, though, in the little bit of looking that I've done, it seems like the bigger hits from this are landing in the $400 to $500 range. So to me, it's a product that you're going to get those hits. You're kind of guaranteed. They have a lot of like low serial numbered base cards in there. But and again, maybe the clear cut comparison is good. You can pull a $3,000 card in clear cut. I don't know if there's a $3,000 card in Artifacts, maybe, but it seems like you have a little. You're trading more hits for a little bit lower of an upside. What have you thought about Artifacts?
Yeah, everything you said, I've liked. I love the at least one hit usually in each pack. I thought that was really cool. I liked the Aurum cards, just how they look.
Yeah, those are super
the bounty
cool
ones. They look really cool. I don't know. I'll say I pulled a Zegras and it looked really nice. The gold with the Anaheim Ducks colors looked cool.
And you sold it right away, right?
Yep. I'll say it on personal pickups.
Okay.
I'll talk about or sales. I'll actually bring up some sales. But yeah, I've liked it. I've liked the base cards. The only issues I had was my collation. I had 2 boxes, and my collation, I almost got, I think it was 70% the same base cards between the 2 boxes. So I had a lot of duplicates, which didn't, I think it's a 100 card straight up base set. That seemed high, but I mean, it's base cards, and it's not going to be worth a lot, but I have liked the product. I would definitely probably buy another box or 2.
I agree with you on the Aurum. I think those really cool. I still don't understand how somebody's going to invest the money to get all 48 for the bounty program. I'll take Tony and Upper Deck's word for it. I'm sure a lot of people do.
Yeah, wait till we get the sales, and I'll tell you.
The one kind of curiosity that I have on an Aurum there are some low-numbered autograph versions. Are those bounty cards as well? Would people really scratch? You have a Trevor Zegras auto out of like 10 or something like that? Are you going to wreck the card for the bounty?
That's a really good question. I am not sure.
So, well, somebody will let us know on our social channels. Okay, so I think Artifacts, all in all, is more positives than negatives, is how I would put it. Probably a win for collectors and for Upper Deck. It seems to be going well. A lot of it's selling from what I've seen in break rooms, so it seems to be a pretty popular product. Now, Troy, though, beyond this, it's my weekly meltdown of confusion. It's kind of hit a new apex at this point. So I had no clue what's coming out next. If somebody does, please let us know, because that would be great. What I have noticed, and we've talked a little bit about this off air, is there's a weird gap right now that's hard to explain. So Artifacts came out on September 28th. In doing tons of research and going to all the online retailers and looking at all the release calendars, what you'll consistently see is most products are in holding dates. So either October 30th or 31st, or a lot of them have been pushed to the end of November, which doesn't mean they're coming out at the end of November. It's just giving Upper Deck room to figure out, I guess my interpretation, what comes next. There's one that isn't in an obvious holding date, and it's Ultimate Collection, which is, you'll see on almost all the online retailers as October 26th as a release date. There's 2 things, Troy, that stand out to me about this that kind of don't make sense. The first is, so you have Artifacts, as I mentioned, came out September 28th. If the next release is Ultimate Collection on October 26th, that is 2 days short of a month between releases. And given the huge backlog, as Tony from Upper Deck stated, their goal to get back on track sooner than later, I find it really suspect that we're going to have a month without any significant releases. I'm just not buying that I suppose stranger things have happened. The second thing, Troy, is I haven't seen a solid date, but it sounds like the Cup is coming out mid-November. And if you're going to have Ultimate Collection on October 26th, and let's say the Cup on November 15th or 16th or something like that, roughly 3. Do you see a world where they release the Cup or Ultimate Collection and then the Cup within a 3-week span?
I don't know, but at this point, maybe if they do, it's got to be just, we got to get this stuff out. This backlog is just, we're never going to catch up. because we've looked at the list. It's still a pretty long list of catch-up that hasn't been announced as canceled or anything. So we think they're still in the pipeline. If they don't start coming out with, they're going to have to start coming out with close releases or 2 a month, I think, or else they're just going to be almost in perpetuity behind with old releases.
The only other little note is, in all the research I did on retailers, I checked out our friends in Canada, cloutsanchara.com, and they had Allure releasing today. And by today, I mean October 15th, the day the podcast comes out. That's not going to happen because the first thing I did is I immediately looked for the checklist and it's not out. But could that be an indication that Allure is next? I don't know. I guess we'll have to see. And if anyone has an inside scoop, it's really hard because we're not a retailer. And so we don't get invoices sent to us, or we're kind of relying on all doing our own third-party information and doing a heck of a lot of dot connecting. But so long story short, what's coming out next? I don't know. But I guess we'll find out. All right, Trey, we're at the personal pickups part of the show. I'm going to start this week, and I was at a local card shop. I saw a good deal on Clear Cut. I thought, I haven't opened any Clear Cut myself. I want to take a stab at it.
What was the deal? What were they selling it for?
I think it was like $135.
Okay, well, that's not bad.
I thought that was pretty good. They had 10 boxes. They let me pick the box. I picked box number 7. I think you always win 7, right? That's a lucky number.
Yeah, you got a lucky number.
By the time I'm talking about this, I plan on, it's again Tuesday. I'll do the video. It'll be out. I am now the proud owner of a clear-cut Tyler Benson autograph rookie. Last comp $7.
Sweet.
So if anyone thinks that they should follow our advice in hockey card collecting, I managed yesterday to turn $140 some with tax into $7. So
but, hey, you proved what we've been saying. You're not going to get rich buying boxes. Buy the singles you want, or buy the singles you want to invest in is the play.
It's the thrill of the chase. It's the lottery fantasy. It's the game you play when you open wax, and you just you're right, 100%. If you're in this hobby to either build value or grow wealth or flip cards, the only way to go is singles.
Yep.
All right, your turn.
All right. So I actually just looked up. I was looking up the bounty program, and it doesn't look like any have been fully redeemed yet for the Artifacts bounty. It looks like they're all still available. So I just wanted to give an update on that, but it kind of plays into my stuff. So I bought 2 boxes of Artifacts. I actually got pretty decent cards. I pulled 3 Aurum cards. So I actually got 2 Aurum cards in one pack in one of my boxes, which obviously I think is a collation issue, but I'll take it. I got a Trevor Zegras, I got a Bo Horvat, and I got a Martin Brodeur for my Aurum cards. And I actually listed all 3 of those. The Zegras sold right away, $90. People have it out there for double that. But looking at what stuff was moving, and it looked like 90, I knew I could sell it. And so I sold that. And then the Bo Horvat sold. And I think I got I got $5 for it. And there were some selling in his player range, like that type of player, for $1.
Oh, man.
And the person that bought them actually messaged me on eBay and said, hey, I don't want the cards. I just want the codes. And so I wrote back, I go, just to be clear, you want the code. I can scratch the card and send you the codes or a picture. And he's like, yes. So I did that, sent him the pictures. He's like, thanks. You don't have to send them. Maybe this is a Hockey Cards 101 subject. Always send the cards on eBay, because who knows? I don't think he was going to do it, but he could say down the road, I never got it. The tracking would never say anything because I didn't send it. So I still sent the cards out to him with tracking, and they'll show us delivered at some point. But it was it was the first time interaction I've had with that, where someone they just wanted you paid $90 for a code on that Zegras card. That's all he wanted, and the 5 on Horvat. And the Brodeur I have out there, it's still for sale, because the Zegras did look cool, but I figured maybe I'd sell them and try to get some money. I got a couple of really nice Crosbys, horizontal materials, dual patch, and then some number cards. I sold one of the numbered cards. It was out of like $199. It was the Royal Blue, I believe. Sold that for like $15. So actually, I had a couple good Artifact boxes.
I actually forgot a key part of my clear cut box that ties into Artifacts. So I was going to get Artifacts. And there's a guy at the store in front of me who had just bought an Artifacts box. And he, like a lot of people tend to do, they like to rip it in the
At the
LCS.
shop. Yeah.
And so he opened his box and he had some questions, and because of our show and all the research we've done, I was able to answer them. So he pulls out of this Artifacts box a dual patch Dawson Mercer auto.
Okay.
A dual patch, I think numbered to 99, Jeremy Swayman.
Wow.
He pulled a UPL base, but numbered out of 35. And then he pulled a legendary game used patch card too. And so I was not going to buy Clear Cut, right? And my whole thought process is these boxes of Artifacts came out of a case.
Yep.
And this guy just hit the bomb box.
You have the God
no
pack
way.
or the God box.
Yeah, there's no way if I buy another box, I'm going to end up with garbage. So that's what steered me to the Clear Cut box and my $7 Tyler Benson auto. So
even on Clear Cut, I hit 2 really good cards out of my 2 Clear Cut boxes, which usually never happens. I mean, I got the value of the box for one of them, the Jake Gensel exclusive, and then the Zetterberg is still for sale at the value of the box. Who knows if it will sell or if I'll have to drop the price a little, but it's a cool card.
All right, guys. Well, that is our show for the week. Thank you so much for listening, for everybody's support. Please, if you're not following us on social media, do that. Instagram is by far our biggest channel. We're also pretty active on Facebook. TikTok, Troy, last time I checked, we were at 499 followers. So it'd be kind of cool to hit the 500 mark there. We're also posting our content to YouTube and Twitter a little bit. We can't wait to be back next week. And it's the start of the NHL season.
I can't wait. Let's go.